Good morning, hello, welcome to Fantasy Filmball. It is day 7 of TIFF. Day 7 of TIFF. It is Wednesday, September 13th, and I am just on my way to see a press screening of Dix the Musical. Very excited. I didn't think I was going to catch this one after I missed the midnight screening, but here I am. Yes, life just works out like this. Sometimes I get to see the movie that I didn't think I was going to see. So, very, very excited. I feel like I need a good, ridiculous comedy. So many very dark movies yesterday. So, hopefully this one should be a good palate cleanser off of Green Border last night. Guess what though? I'm once again late. So I jogged up the subway stairs. That's why I'm a little bit out of breath. But yeah, always freaking late in the mornings. I don't think this one should be full. Hopefully it's not full. I'll be sad if it is. Womp womp. I will say, as the festival goes on, the film I keep coming back to in my mind, even though when I watched it, it was just a 7 out of 10. Zone of Interest. I keep thinking about it. I really, really want to see it again. I can't move my score up without watching it again because I still think that I might find the film to be a little dull, but the ideas behind it, they're haunting me, guys. They are absolutely haunting me. I also do think it's a little tiny bit crazy that I still have not found a TIFF film that tops Hundreds of Beavers, which I watched on the first night, which was not a TIFF selection. It was just a film that the midnight programmer brought in as an extra pre-game. So I kind of consider it part of the festival. It's part of the festivities. It was the day before. It was with a lot of the TIFF team. But yeah, nothing has beat that movie for me. Nothing. And I've now seen 28 movies, and not a single one has topped Hundreds of Beavers. Holdovers came close, but nothing else. So yeah. Oh, also another thing, I have moved the Holdovers up to a full-on 10 out of 10. I loved it. You know, the more that I sit with it, the more that I think about what this film means and the craft put into it and how I'm gonna feel about it later in the year, I think it deserves that full perfect score. So it doesn't top Hundreds of Beavers. It's a very light 10 out of 10, but I'm gonna drop that 5 stars on LETTERBOXD. So okay, so I just saw Dix the Musical, which was weird. I'm gonna say weird to say the very least. I love musicals, but one thing I will say is I'm getting definitely a little bit tired of the very campy, self-referential, oh, we're making a musical, look, we're so silly musicals like this, Schmigadoon. I don't know, I'm not looking for something earnest or genuine, but there's so many gags in this movie that are just like, look, we're putting in low effort because it's a musical, look, like our songs aren't great, our dancing isn't good, look, our sets aren't even complete. It's that sort of thing that I'm like a little bit tired of. A lot of the music in this I also just thought was very low effort. That said, there's one song in here that I think is genuinely fantastic. It's the Megan Thee Stallion song. It's called Out Alpha the Alpha, which honestly, one of my favorite songs of the year. It's funny, it's catchy, it's still stuck in my head. It is everything I would want out of a Megan Thee Stallion song in a movie musical. Just genuinely fantastic. And it's one of the few songs that's like, it's crass, but it's not gross. The movie also leans a lot on like shock humor, so if something that you really like is that sort of shocking, like, oh my god, I can't believe they did that, you really like this. If that sort of gets you a little bit tired, Dix the Musical might not be for you. Yeah, it's a weird movie. I can't believe that they did some of the things that they did in that. Yeah, maybe, I don't know. I think it might try to push it a little bit too hard at times. It gets a little bit annoying. But still, I'm glad I saw it. It's a weird one, and that Megan Thee Stallion song deserves recognition. Holy shit, it's good. Anyways, I'm in line for NYAD right now. I got my Frappuccino. I'm very tired, but we're living. So I just got NYADed. I just saw NYAD, and I would say I'm mixed about this one. I've been talking about it for ages. It's like, what if this is Netflix's contender? It's not. I can say that wholeheartedly now. I would say I am mixed, leaning a little bit more negative on this one. Now, some of the positives, it is a very cool story, very inspirational story. My biggest positive, though, has to be Alexander Desplat's score. He went off on this movie. The score is fantastic. His work is amazing, genuinely great. Also, Claudio Miranda, his cinematography is really, really strong, especially in those water scenes. Anytime that they're swimming, Miranda does a great job. We know that he's good at water sequences. We saw that in Life of Pi. We see that here. He is spectacular at filming those scenes. Now, the biggest negative about this film, though, is that not all of it takes place in the water, and anytime we're out of the water, it just becomes so bland and boring when we aren't in that environment. And yeah, I would also say the script it's not the strongest. It's really based on themes of friendship and perseverance, and those themes, they're not the strongest or the most engaging themes that you could possibly go for in a story like this. We've seen all of that before in a sports movie. Some of the performances were solid. I mean, Jodie Foster had some great scenes. Rhys Ifans had some great moments. Annette Bening also, of course, has some very good moments. I'm not completely sold on her in this film. Her physical performance here is strong. She put in a lot of work to basically become a professional swimmer, but just putting in the work, that's not everything. You know, it doesn't make a performance stronger to be like, oh yeah, well, you did work to prepare for it. Her work's fine in this. It's nothing special. It's nothing Oscar worthy. And the movie overall, you know, it has some strengths. It's an inspirational story, but it's not one that I feel is going to really stick with people. It might make them feel really good in the moment. My crowd was going crazy at the end of the movie. I heard people as they left the theater, a lot of older people saying that it's the best movie that they've seen at the festival. But I don't think they're gonna remember it. You know, it's not one that's gonna stick with you. Although it might make you feel really fucking good when you watch it. Pump your fist in the air. But yeah, it's not one of my favorites. Anyways, next up, I am going to see Ava DuVernay's new movie, Origin. So I'm just gonna get a little bite to eat, and then I'm gonna go get in line for that. Time for some DuVernay.
Please join me in Ava DuVernay.
Let's just give a round of applause to Cameron Shaft Jackets. Fantastic, truly a good thing. The lights are so bright that I can't see, but I just want to thank you all for being here. I really love Toronto, and I love Toronto because it was introduced to me by two friends who actually drove 2 hours to be here today. Actually, it was a 2-hour drive, it took 4 hours in traffic. They are friends that I met over 15 years ago when I was just starting to think about making films. I remember the first time I came to Toronto, we went to record stores, we ate great Indian food, we hung out. And when I think of Toronto, I think of them. Every time I come back, they come to meet me. So my friends, Mike and Bula are here. I don't know where you are, but just give a round of applause for my Toronto friends, Mike and Bula. Thank you for being here, wherever you are in this space. And I also just was so looking forward to the screening today because I find sitting in the dark with strangers a healing time. It's something I've done since I was a little girl, and it always has brought me peace, no matter what I was watching. And I had a rough morning because like a year and a half ago during COVID, I completely got off of Twitter. I said, you know what, I'm gonna get off of social media because I think, you know, in some spaces it's a little toxic. And I, this morning, for some reason, went on Twitter. I should not have. It is not a nice place sometimes. And I read some things that really upset me, and I thought, you know what? Thank goodness I have a movie to go to, and there'll be some strangers in the dark sitting here, because this has always been a place of healing for me, and a place of exploration, and a place of joy. So I hope that's this for you. Although the film does deal with some dense and tough subject matter, it's all told through a love story. When he says January, February, he's talking this January. We wrapped in March of this year. And I have to say, we made the film independently, so outside of the studio system. Our company Array raised the money with some amazing folks who answered the call saying we wanted to make this outside the studio system. And you just had us, it was me and him. There was no studio to call, there was no business affairs, no insurance department of the studio, no nothing. It was just us out in the world making this film. It was a time in my life. We worked together before on other things, but it felt like everything that we had done up until this point prepared us. And it was such a joy to work with you. I just want to say
Can you speak a little bit about the journey of adaptation? I mean, you've woven a lot of story around story here. It's complex, it's rich, it's deep. Can you talk about writing it?
Thank you. You know, I had to let go of conventions and the ways that I had been taught to do this, because as I read the book is wild. The book is, she's throwing everything at you to try to get you to understand this concept. I had to read it 3 times just to get my bearings and be able to answer the question, what is gas, right? And so it took a lot of study, and I thought, you know, I'm going to free myself up. That's why we had to make it outside of the studio system. I'm going to free myself up to tell it however I feel I need to tell it. If I have to go into a surreal space, if I have to jump into feudal India, if we have to show a Black family reunion, if we have to show, whatever we have to do, whatever tactics we have to employ, sometimes it feels like doc, sometimes it feels like narration, sometimes it feels like fantasy. All of those things I wanted to be free, to try to get to the point where at the end you have a feeling, you feel closer to this idea than you did when you walked in and sat and started the film. So that was how I approached the adaptation. Non-linear, very much embracing Isabel as a character to be our emotional through line. She was so generous with her time and with the interviews that she gave me over the course of a year to share her real life story with me. That's not in the book. So all of that happened with her family. It was just her generosity in sharing with me how she felt as those things happened.
Well, Origin is absolutely incredible. Hands down, bar none, my favorite film of the festival so far. This was the film I feel like I've been waiting for, and just like the reaction that I felt, the emotions that it stirred in me. For me, when I truly love a film, I feel it in my gut right away. And I haven't felt that yet. And every other year at the festival, normally I feel that like 4 or 5 times. So far, I almost felt that with The Holdovers, but not quite. It was close. With this film, it moved me deeply to the core. It's monumental, like fucking monumental. This is on another level. I really love Ava DuVernay's documentary 13th. I think it's one of the most complete and important texts about institutionalized racism in America. And to me, what 13th was for racism in America, Origin is for oppression around the world. This is an encyclopedic text. And the way that DuVernay approaches it is interweaving documentary and fiction and looking through the lens of the writer of this book, but using that to really deeply explore all these aspects of caste, of oppression. And the way it does it is unlike anything I've seen. It's stunning. It's a stunning work. I can see why some people have had a negative reaction off the bat to it. I've seen a few of those, and I think it's because there is really no movies like this. And normally if there are, they are done in a documentary form or as a mini-series. With this, there's so much that's being talked about in this 2-hour capsule, but it does it absolutely beautifully. To me, absolutely the film of the festival. Anyways, I'm now in the rush line for Fingernails, and I just had someone ask, hey, you've been in rush lines a lot, what's the deal with rush, how does it work? Now, it is day 7, I probably should have explained this a lot earlier, but no time like the present. So, what I'm doing with these rush lines, basically when a screening is sold out and there are no more tickets available, a line forms outside the film before it starts. Now, that line is basically people that want to buy tickets to it. And what we're counting on here is that people who have tickets will not come to the show. And so when the show begins, probably about 10 minutes before, all the way to about 10 minutes into the movie, there are people who are counting the heads that are missing. And basically, we will fill those seats. This seems unlikely, right? Like, you hear, oh, there's missing seats, ticket holders, and you think, well, who's gonna miss a show? And the answer to that is TIFF gives away a lot of tickets, and also a lot of sponsors buy tickets. So the sponsors, let's say a big company like Bell, they'll get a certain amount of tickets to the majority of shows. And or just a company in general might buy a package of 20 tickets for their employees, all the way up to like 50 of them. Now, what we're counting on here is that some of those tickets that were freely given away or purchased by companies are not claimed by people, or people who got those tickets who have a lot of money don't care enough to show up. So that's what we're doing here. We just hope that enough of these seats are people that don't really care about the movie. On my way into Fingernails, another one. Can't wait. They gave us free popcorn. First time.
He was an assistant director on Dogtooth and Before Midnight, and made his feature directorial debut with Apples. Fingernails is his latest film. Now, without further ado, let's please welcome Christos Nico to the stage. Welcome.
Thank you, Margaret, for the intro, and thank you all so much for being here today. I would like to start by saying that I would like to dedicate this screening and all the screenings that we're doing here to Ravi Srinivasan, that was one of the main programmers in Toronto Film Festival, and unfortunately this year he passed away and he's not any longer with us, but I'm sure that he's somewhere here and he's watching all the movies.
Alright, I just saw Fingernails, which stars Jessie Buckley, Riz Ahmed. It's a sci-fi movie in the sort of same vein as Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind and Her. And honestly, I think it deserves to be in that conversation alongside those two movies, which are both excellent. This one's not quite as good, but it crushed me. What else can I say? I feel sick to my stomach. I feel sad. I laughed. It moved me deeply, and it's just really poignant. It's talking about some things that really hit hard in terms of love, loneliness, and all of that spectrum of emotions and the conflicted feelings that come with being in love but still feeling alone. There's a lot in this movie that really spoke to me deeply. It's well made, it's very well written. The sci-fi premise is incredibly interesting and has some cringe-worthy moments of violence in it, because the central premise is that you have to have a fingernail pulled out to get this test to see if you're truly in love with your partner, which is brutal to watch, to say the least. Lots of laughter in the theater every time one of those scenes came up. Yeah, this is a special movie. It really is, and I can tell it's not for everyone. I've been seeing some pretty negative reactions to this, but honestly, I can't tell why. I thought it was great. I just had a very good time with this movie, even though it sometimes really hurt to watch. Loved it. Good one. But now I am sitting in a rush line for The Promised Land. I'm gonna get some work done. Got the TIFF gift shop behind me. Life's good, man. Life's good. Rushing is so easy. Did it again. Oh my god, it's so easy. I've had good luck this festival, is what I'm gonna say. Anatomy of a Fall and Perfect Days. It was a fluke. Rushing is easy. If you come to TIFF, do rush.
Thank you so much.
Wow, I was even just those last few beats watching it again. It's just like the deep satisfaction of that ending too. But yeah, before we get to questions and comments, I'd just love to hear from you about the kind of the first steps for this film. But also, I'm sure this is sort of a film which maybe you've been aiming to make for a very long time. There's certainly something that maybe you never thought was sort of possible on this scale too.
Yeah, wow, this is loud.
Hot mic.
Living in Denmark, it's a country of about 5 million people. It's just having this dream of making an epics.
So, my final movie of the day was The Promised Land. It's a Danish film directed by Nikolaj Arcel and starring Mads Mikkelsen. This was really good. It got a few mixed notices out of Venice, but honestly, if you're a fan of stuff like There Will Be Blood, of westerns like Slow West, I'm struggling to think of names. I keep thinking of the movie Godland, which is Iceland's submission to the Oscars, as well as The Settlers, which is Chile's submission to the Oscars. It's one of those movies about really someone going out and it's just them and the elements. It's that type of movie. Mads Mikkelsen gives, obviously, a great performance. But the highlight of the film, in my mind, is just the visuals. The camera work is stunning. It looks so, the details are so rich. It's just a beautiful looking film. The lighting design, the coloring, all of it just works so well. It's sure to be, honestly, one of the best looking films of the year. And that kind of comes along with a really interesting story about family. It's a really, really well done film. It's one of the ones that I could definitely see making its way into the Oscar conversation. I could see this being an international feature nominee for sure. It's almost certain to be Denmark's submission to the Oscars. And when it is, I definitely see it making the shortlist and probably getting a nomination. This film was really, definitely a very strong one to cap the day off with. Honestly, today has just been one of my favorite days of the festival overall. I got to see some of my favorite movies so far, including Origin, which is the first film that I've just fallen head over heels for. Honestly, I think I might have started this morning by talking about how no film has blown me away yet, that I haven't had that gut feeling that a film was, truly great. Normally I get that a bunch every single year. Today, I got it for the first time this festival. Origin is really sticking with me, and I think it's probably going to end up being my favorite film of the festival. I can't see what's going to top it from what I have remaining. But tomorrow morning, I get to see Evil Does Not Exist, the new Hamaguchi film, so maybe it gets overthrown. But I'm going to hop on the subway, I'm going to go home, I'm going to get a glass of water, and I'm going to relax and do a little bit of work. It's going to be a good night. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.